was booming. Unfortunately, St. Louis city streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline. St. Louis City Republicans believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican Pat Curtis, Farber Treasurer.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
Time now for the O'Reilly Update Message of the Day. On this Monday, all of us have experienced sudden disaster. Something bad occurs out of nowhere. Who saw the savage Hamas attack coming last month? How about the death of Matthew Perry? More than 100,000 people have died from drug overdoses this year, and none of those poor souls thought their conduct would strike them down in an instant. Now, some disasters like substance abuse can be avoided, but most so-called acts of God cannot. We are at the mercy of a universe no one can understand. So, we have to prepare for disaster, even if it never arrives, which is doubtful. Americans must put aside enough money to protect themselves from injury and health maladies. We should not be dependent on the government or other people for our survival. This forward-looking self-reliance is largely rejected by the progressive philosophy. Their individual protections like weapons and financial independence are bad. Faith should be put in the government to help and protect you. Unbelievably foolish. But progressives now control the White House and much of the culture, and millions of young Americans are buying in. Ironically, that will lead to certain disaster down the road. I'm Bill O'Reilly. I approve the message by writing it. You can reach me, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, name and town if you wish to opine. Now let's go to the mail. Forrest, concierge member. All right, Forrest says, unfortunately, Bill, complicated global strategy is beyond the mental capacity of Blinken and Sullivan as well. I don't believe that. Okay, I think Secretary of State Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan know what's going on. You know, I don't know them personally, but I think they know, they understand what's happening. Now, whether they are going to come up with policies that are going to be productive for the USA, that's the question. They certainly didn't in Afghanistan, right? Couldn't get worse than that. But to say that they don't have the mental capacity, no. Politics may gut them, but they know what's going on. Leah, Biden's mental capacity is diminished, no doubt, but as my opinion is also on the take from China. I'm glad you put in, it is my opinion, Leah. And you are absolutely entitled to it. But if you're going to say he's on a take, you got to have hard evidence. Okay? House committees are working on it. Nicholas Bavaro, Eugene, Oregon. This state passed a bill to legalize drug use a couple of years ago. It has failed big time, so now they want to reverse the law. As on TV, are supporting keeping drugs legal, saying nothing good has ever happened by locking people up. Well, I've been the victim of theft and car break-ins 7 times in 5 years by drug addicts that are camped all over my neighborhood. The good that comes from them being locked up is they can't victimize me. Great letter, Nicholas. I lived in Oregon. When I was there, it was a little loony. Now it's full blown. In a moment, something you might not know. If you own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles and have an auto warranty about to expire or have no warranty at all, listen up. Car Shield has a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that's now available to the public. Save on out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. So please call Car Shield now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. 800-925-7584 for a free quote. This protection plan is at an all-time low in price. Drivers who activate the vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. So please call for your free quote, 800-925-7584, 800-925-7584. Hey, what do you have to lose? 800-925-7584.
Are you looking for an awesome space to have an incredible event this season, this holiday season, or just for any reason whatsoever? Your one-stop shop is View 17. That's VUE17.com, VUE17.com. Ultra-modern media conference and event center. You can have just about any event you can dream up there. It's on the 17th floor in the heart of the county of St. Louis. Check them out today. You will be impressed, and so will your guests. VUE17.com, View17.com.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
This is Ben. Ben, can I ask you a personal question? Are you Jewish?
Yeah.
So after October 7th, would you ever vote for a Democrat ever again?
Never again. Never again. It gets more disappointing every day.
Do you live in Cory Bush's district?
I do. Yeah.
So your Jewish friends and say, hey, Wesley Bell's the lesser of two evils, certainly better than Cory Bush.
We're absolutely aware. We got to make this a safe, great place for everybody.
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Now, the O'Reilly Update brings you something you might not know. 234 years ago today, New Jersey became the first state in the Union to ratify 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. Here is the story behind the Bill of Rights. In the summer of 1787, delegates from the 13 original colonies convened in Philadelphia to form a permanent government. The original Constitution outlined a system of checks and balances, but did not enshrine individual liberties. Recently emancipated from the tyrannical King of England, the American people demanded strong guarantees for their hard-fought freedoms. Inspired by Thomas Jefferson, written by James Madison, the Bill of Rights listed specific principles the federal government could not deny its citizens, and here they are. The First Amendment, freedom of religion, speech, the press, and the right to assemble. The second, the right to own a firearm for self-protection. 3, soldiers cannot enter a person's home unless invited. 4, no search and seizure of private property without a warrant or consent. The Fifth Amendment, the right to due process and protections against self-incrimination. 6, the right to speedy and a public trial. The 7th, the right to a trial by a jury of our peers. The 8th Amendment, the prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment. 9, the principle of limited government. The rights of U.S. citizens will be protected whether specifically listed in the Constitution or not. And the 10th Amendment, all powers not relegated to the federal government are given to the states. And here's something else you might not know. The first public copy of the bill was published in 1789 in the Connecticut Gazette. The newspaper is a stark reminder of the Founding Fathers' contradictory view of slavery. On the same page as the Bill of Rights is a local advertisement. A man from the town of New London offering a $10 reward for the return of his runaway slave. Back after this.
Do you want more online safety and privacy? I know I do. That's why I started using NordVPN. It guards me against various internet threats. Digital trackers, malicious websites, and malware-infected downloads? Back off. I choose to browse with more confidence. I choose NordVPN.
To avoid digital threats, turn on NordVPN.
It's rated excellent on Trustpilot. Just visit NordVPN.com. One of the fastest VPNs on Earth will block web trackers, malicious websites, and malware-ridden downloads. It will encrypt your online data as well. So improve your digital privacy and protection with one simple click. Get the special Black Friday deal at NordVPN.com and enjoy safer internet daily. NordVPN. Cybersecurity built for every day.
Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
KL2I HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. The holiday season is upon us, so will rain and snow get in the way? Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Mullinax says much of the eastern half of the U.S. will see rain and then by midweek even snow, making driving difficult. And if you're flying...
One of the more notable impacts for Tuesday, especially maybe for air travel, will be winds. It will be pretty gusty. Up and down, basically from the Virginia Tidewater on north up into the interior northeast. And by Wednesday morning, we've got snow that's really starting to take shape across much of northern New England, again staying rain along the I-95 corridor.
For those late travelers,
it should dry out by the time you get towards the second half of Wednesday.
Of course, the day before Thanksgiving can be pretty busy. I'm Julie Walker.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin made an unannounced visit to Ukraine. He brought a message of reassurance, saying Ukraine's efforts to defeat Russia's invasion is important.
The message that I bring you today, Mr. President, is that the United States of America is with you. We will remain with you for the long haul. What happens here in Ukraine, that not only matters to Ukraine, but it matters to the rest of the world. It certainly matters to the United States of America.
He met Monday with President Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine's defense minister and chief of staff, and announced that the U.S. would be sending an additional $100 million in weapons. Rosalind Carter's tiny hometown of Plains, Georgia, is mourning the death of the former First U.S. Lady and global humanitarian who died Sunday at 96. Lifelong residents and more recent transplants to Plains remembered her Monday as an involved presence around town, despite all that she and former President Jimmy Carter achieved elsewhere. On Wall Street, the Dow by 203 points, the Nasdaq rose 159. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Factor pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Are you looking for a meaningful way to preserve our nation's history? Consider purchasing a Blueprints of Liberty brick. Each purchase helps to build Liberty Village. By sponsoring a brick, you become a part of the Blueprints of Liberty Village, a unique destination that brings our founding history to life. This family-friendly location will provide an opportunity for youth and visitors to encounter history like never before. Visit UnitedWePledge.org to order your...
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Keep the umbrellas handy. More rain at times this evening and even overnight. We'll see some showers. It'll start to taper off, but you might have a spotty lingering shower during the morning drive. Otherwise, we're drying out, but it stays cloudy and chilly on Tuesday. A low of 42 degrees and a high of just 46. It'll be breezy and cloudy and dry in the afternoon with a wind around 10 to 20 miles per hour. We'll get more sunshine in here on Wednesday with a high of 49 and mostly sunny skies. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Well, Tim Jones here live from our new studios in Maryland Heights. We're that much closer to Espino's Mexican Grill in the heart of Chesterfield Valley. That's just down the road from us. In fact, let me just say this. I think Espino's is just about, 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes from just about anywhere in the great county of St. Louis. You should stop by Espino's today. They're open 7 days a week, of course. They have got the finest, the best, the most authentic Mexican fare around town. Not just that standard Mexican fare. You know what I'm talking about. You feel like you go into all the different Mexican restaurants and for some reason it looks like the exact same menu. Not Espino's. Espino's has delicious Mexican specialties grilled up every single day, fresh by Chef Espino. Roseanne, of course, watching the bar and making sure the ambiance is perfect in their incredible dining room. We're going to have a few nicer days left before the end of the year. I'm pretty sure about that, so you should hang out on that margarita patio they've got out front at Espino's. Espino's is absolutely fantastic. They're at 17409 Chesterfield Airport Road. Like I said, in the heart of Chesterfield Valley. You can find them 24/7 at Espino'sMexicanBarGrill.com. Once again, not your typical Mexican fare. It is fresh, authentic Mexican fare, grilled up and created daily by Chef Espino himself. Check him out anytime, Espino'sMexicanBarGrill.com. That's Espino'sMexicanBarGrill.com. Espino's, we'll see you there.
You want to give a unique gift this holiday? I suggest Stolac Whiskey, produced in Missouri. Stolac Whiskey, born of natural limestone filtered water from the Ozark Highlands, aged in Missouri oak. Stolac, so smooth. Trust me, you're going to enjoy it. So next time, ask for Stolac. Visit the website, stolac.com. Stolac, Stowloch, from Stone Ledge Distillery.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
Scam is a case that should be immediately dismissed.
News, analysis, opinion.
This is a judge who clearly has an issue with facts that are not good for the case.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Good afternoon. Welcome into the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show here on a Monday. A little bit of a dreary, bleak Monday. Yeah, unfortunately, this is probably the next 5 or 6, 7 months here in Missouri as we head into wintertime. But it is a happy Thanksgiving week here on this Monday, November 2023. And Chris Arps, it's a happy Monday because we are in our brand new studios here in the heart of Maryland Heights, a stone's throw from Westport Plaza.
It is, and it's nice to be in the new studios. This was my first time coming this afternoon. And even though we were at the other studios downtown for the last couple of years, it always seemed kind of temporary, like it wasn't our true home. This place feels like our home, and glad to hear. And we're in the temporary studio here, of course. Those that of you are streaming can see this. This is not the main studio, but we are tight, and we are. It's warm in here, too.
We're warm and cozy with producer Joey V.
Exactly.
Who's here as well. Joey, you're doing a great job with all of the hamsters and the hamster wheels and all the duct tape and WD-40 you're using today.
Yeah, I'm afraid if I turn around a little bit too fast, I'll knock Chris out. So you be careful back there, buddy.
Because you do have long arms.
He does.
Real bony
He's
ones,
like-
too. Sharp elbows.
He's like from Talladega Nights. He's like one of the kids, Texas or Walker Ranger. He's like a spider monkey.
I'm going to come at you.
So the nice thing is, when I turned on Mike Ferguson in the morning this morning, as I often do in the morning when I get up and I tell my Alexa speaker to play Mike Ferguson, I play News Talk STL, I was happy to report that I heard no difference. So for many of you out there, for probably all of you out there, you're like, all right, great, you guys are in a new place, you sound the same. Yeah, that's the point. Everything sounds the same. Everything is accessible the same. You can find us in all the same places. We just physically are in a different place. And as you often know with Chris and I especially, we travel, and so we've done this show literally around the world, and so it really doesn't matter where the heck we are. It's where you are, and I hope you all keep listening to us. We will have some sort of official grand opening probably and maybe after the holidays, when we get all completely settled in. As Chris said, we're in what's called a production studio right now. It's where we do a lot of our editing and our work. Our main studio is beautiful. It's about, I'd say, 3/4 finished. It's almost there. But we'll have everybody here so you can see our new home. And Chris, like you said, it's great being here. It's ours because it wasn't anybody else's. We gutted this space and rebuilt it from the bottom up. Thank you so much to the hard work of our owners, Jeff Allen and Joe Rush, Michelle Rush, who was in here all weekend long, along with Jim Modulin and a lot of the other folks getting this ready. And it's fantastic, and we're excited for this new chapter in our life. Thank you all for being here with us.
And I've got to ask you guys, me personally, it took me 12 minutes to get here from my home. Tim, how long did it take you?
It's the same distance for me.
Is it?
From Eureka, it's weird. And maybe 2 minutes shorter, because I go down Interstate 44, and to go to the old place, I'd go straight on 44. To come here, I make a left, go north on 270. It's almost the same place. It's almost the same difference, but it's all interstate. It's a lovely drive. And, it's just, I miss the city, but I don't miss the city, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. Joey, what about you, sir?
I can't drive without some sort of landmark telling me where to go. So back at the old place, we had the powerhouse, giant smokestack coming out of the building. Here, I just look at Westport, and I just keep driving until I hit it. And I'm like, oh, make a right. There we go.
You look for the golden...
Look for the big gold building.
The big gold building, yeah.
Once I bounce off, I know I'm good.
I ran over to Westport today, and it's really close. Like on a nice day, I'd probably maybe walk, but today it was rainy and dreary, and we were short on time. Westport is doing a ton of expansion and rehab work, and unlike downtown, I hate to say this, unlike around Union Station where you had like 2 places you could eat, Westport's got a ton of great places and restaurants, and maybe some of them will be advertisers.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to have a great time here. It's in the heart of everything. And we're going to be happy moving forward with this home for the next few years.
Oh, yeah, and as the owners and everyone else has said over the last couple of weeks, free parking, don't have to worry about that anymore. You don't have to worry about being downtown during what's the train thing with the Christmas?
Polar Express.
Polar Express. We're not downtown during Blues games or Cardinals games. We can get out of here after the end of the show. So I am excited. And I'm excited. We've got a good show, as we always do on Mondays.
Yes, we do. We are always lined up and ready to roll on Mondays with former U.S. Senator Jim Talent at 4:25. Once again, we have a million things to talk about with Jim, including something that I know is going to be the talk of Chris's Corner as well. We lost a first lady over the weekend. I know, Chris, you're going to speak about Rosalind Carter. As Vic Porcelli pointed out, that's how you pronounce her name, Rosalind Carter. I sort of remember the Carters. I'm just a hair younger than you, Chris, so I do remember the Carters. You probably remember them a little more vividly. I mainly remember the hostage crisis and Ronald Reagan then being elected. But I bet our good friend Senator Jim Talent has some thoughts about Rosalind Carter and the Carters. We'll talk to him about that. We'll talk to him about the ongoing war in Israel. Of course, the Israeli Defense Forces have made lots of strides there, and we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about the situation at the border, which continues to worsen every day. The aforementioned Chris's Corner will follow that at 4:45. The Speaker's Stump Speech, I found an incredible Twitter thread that really has exposed the fallacies and the mistakes that we made during COVID. And
a lot of them. We're going to have enough time.
You know what's funny,
to
Chris?
go through all of them?
You know what's funny? This Twitter thread I found refers to a bunch of studies that are being done.
Yeah.
You know, Chris, of course, we would expect there to be studies being done on COVID, but we don't hear about them, do we? Because they're not talked about on the national media, and because they throw cold water on everything. I did see a headline over the weekend that I almost fell over. The New York Times reported 3 years too late. Something along the headline was something along it was so stupid. It was something along the lines of, the things we did during COVID was really damaging to kids and education.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? That's a headline in the New York Times.
And the economy. And I can remember a couple of months, maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago, I did a Chris's Corner on the fact that the Institute of Virology, or whatever they call it over there in China, we're stopped giving them money. And you thought that would happen a year ago, 6 months ago. Why are we just now stop giving Chinese labs money to investigate viruses that could kill us?
Yeah, such an excellent point. And once again, you had to talk to us about that on Chris's Corner because you really couldn't find it much of anywhere, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that in their 24/7 news coverage, Newsmax and Fox News probably report on those things, but they're just two stations. They have a lot to report on. Something like that should have been on ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, the Sunday talk shows, but of course it's not.
Yeah. Other big news today, Tim, besides the fact that a turkey was pardoned, and no, it was not Joe Biden, but Joe Biden turned the big 8-1 today, and the White House is really, really playing this low-key. They're more focusing on the turkey pardoning, and I think the two turkeys this year are Liberty and Bell. And, yeah, I rolled my eyes, too.
E-L-L-E?
I don't know. I just heard it. It was like Liberty and Bell were the turkeys getting pardoned, and that the White House is dramatically playing down the fact that today is the President of the United States' 81st birthday, the oldest man to ever hold the office.
They don't want to talk about that, do they?
No, not at all, especially after these latest poll ratings that have come out, which we can talk about this more during the show. More ratings have come out. NBC News poll came out yesterday. Biden is at 40%. That's
in an NBC poll.
In an NBC poll, that's the lowest. That's the lowest he's ever rated in their poll. Of course, we've seen polls where he's at 37, 36%. So this just continues the bad news for them because MSNBC and NBC have been big cheerleaders for the Democratic Party and for the president, and that's why they're lamenting this fact that it's the lowest ever in their poll for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you point out, there have been some major polling outfits that are not conservative polling outfits that are like Quinnipiac and Emerson and Morning Consult. We know that they likely lean to the left, but I'm sure that in order to maintain their reputation, they try not to. Some of those leading indicator polls, Chris, have had the president's approval rating at 36, 37, 38%. MSNBC and NBC are trying to prop him up as much as possible. But the fact that they can't even hold him much over 40% anymore shows you how truly unpopular this president is.
Yeah, and what's not helping him, of course, is the situation in Israel. I do applaud the president and some in his administration that are supporting Israel. That's been a huge drain on his support among progressive young people and Arab Americans. I get so tired of these people in the government. And Tim, I know you've probably heard about this, where 300 people, bureaucrats within the State Department, sent a letter, without putting their names on it, of course, saying that the president should be supporting a ceasefire in Israel. Look, you can have your own opinions when you're working in the government. When you're working for an administration, if you have problems with that administration, you don't send out anonymous letters to the media. You quit. Then this undergirding, backstabbing of those in authority, and we saw that under Trump, of course, but we're seeing it here on the Democrats, is really disturbing to me.
It's amazing that we're seeing it, right? Because you're right. Usually the left is so folks. Chris's point is so valid because it shows how divisive this issue truly is. Democrats and the left are so good at always circling the wagons, always agreeing 1,000% of the time. So anytime there is a disagreement, here's a clue. It's a huge one. It's a major one. If they're having these disagreements that we're learning about that are in public, you can imagine how vitriolic this must be behind closed doors. And so back in the Trump days, of course, I mean, this was a major problem. It hardly ever happened to Biden. Now it's happening to Biden. And in the old days, we would call these actions bordering on treasonous. You're working against the administration that you're supposed to be publicly serving. So like you said, just quit. And then you can write your tell-all book and go on The View and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a person of conviction would do. He would tender his resignation, and then he would go public and say why. And, the rest is history. But this signing your name to this anonymous letter, and they even say, well, we're signing this because we're worried about our jobs. Well, you should be. You are on this president's team to enforce his policies, not your own. So you should be worried for your job.
And let's remember to kind of circle back and close that point before we run out of time. The segment you were mentioning about Joe Biden's unpopularity. I will continue to advocate for the point that it's not just him. He's unpopular because of his policies. That's something the left-leaning media will never admit. They're going to say when Joe Biden resigns, retires, doesn't run for re-election again, whatever, then it's going to be, oh, yeah, poor old Uncle Joe. He was just too old. No, his policies are terrible, and that's why he's unpopular, not just because he shakes hands with invisible people.
And, of course, what they'll say and what they said all last week, the reason why Bidenomics is not selling to the public is because of messaging. They don't have a messenger to go out and sell it, and the messaging that they have been using obviously doesn't work. Totally discounting what you're saying. The policies don't work.
I found the headline from the Brain Trust over at the New York Times. You're not going to believe this headline. This is the headline of the New York Times on November the 18th, 2023. So the pandemic arguably began February of 2020. It was raging across the nation by March of 2020. So we are, 3.5 years post-hence? Here's what the Brain Trust, Chris, at the New York Times has finally figured out. Headline, the startling evidence on learning loss is in. And it's all about the learning loss of the COVID years. They just now figured they could write this.
And I wonder what is the timing of that.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it?
Are they afraid that the burgeoning school choice movement we're seeing in Arizona and other states, we're having statewide school choice initiatives. We saw how that has been very big in the last two elections, school choice, election issues. I wonder if that is why they are bringing this issue up at this time. I mean, some of the numbers that we have seen showing the declines and how behind some of these students are dramatic. They're seeing a generation almost because of these 2-3 years these kids haven't been back in school. And we've got kids now that never went back to school. The pandemic happened, they checked out, haven't been back since.
Yeah, the 16, 17-year-olds. And then here's the thing. The smart kids are going to be fine. But it's the kids that the Democrats always claim that they are advocating for. The kids who are not the best and brightest, the kids that need more help, the kids that need more schooling, whether they're rich or poor. I know Democrats like Joe Biden think it's only the poor kids who are stupid. But, there are kids that have learning issues no matter what their social economic strata is. And I'm sure there's studies that point to, that give all kinds of results on that. But let's look at this in a colorblind way. Whoever the child is that is struggling, the ones that are struggling have probably struggled more. Those are the ones the Democrats say they care about. And now the New York Times is telling us, oh, yeah, guess what? They're now hurting the worst as well. So what are Democrats doing about it? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
they're totally against school choice.
And you reminded me something, a podcast or something I had listened to a couple of weeks ago talking about truancy in Chicago and in Detroit schools. 2021, truancy was 79% in Detroit. Last year, it went down to 54%. 54% of the students in Detroit public schools don't show up for during a certain period of the school day. I mean, this is
over half.
Over half.
That's really discouraging.
And that's just a snapshot of all of our major cities, including the St. Louis public schools.
Really discouraging. All right, we're going to get to our next guest in just a moment. We always feel like we don't have enough time with former U.S. Senator Jim Talent. We're sure you feel that way as well, so we're going to take a break and get to him in just a second. And then Susie Moore will join us at 5:25 to talk about all of the really amazing stories, and there are quite a few at redstate.com. Next up, former U.S. Senator, chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council on Rosalind Carter, the Israeli-Hamas war, the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and all of the other fires that Joe Biden has conflated around the planet. That's next here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. We're live in our brand new overly ostentatious studios here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
I'm gonna come at you like a spider monkey.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Keep the umbrellas handy. More rain at times this evening, and even overnight we'll see some showers. It'll start to taper off, but you might have a spotty lingering shower during the morning drive. Otherwise, we're drying out, but it stays cloudy and chilly on Tuesday. A low of 42 degrees and a high of just 46. It'll be breezy and cloudy and dry in the afternoon with a wind around 10 to 20 miles per hour. We'll get more sunshine in here on Wednesday with a high of 49 and mostly sunny skies. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Live and local.
Welcome home. And whoosh, sitting in traffic, stuck in a jam, and being entertained by Vic and Thunder Stealing Ken.
This is News Talk STL.
Hey, heading out of town tomorrow, flying to South Carolina to spend Thanksgiving with my father-in-law and my wife, of course. You know, I'm not going to make the mistake I did a couple of weeks ago on the cruise. I'm going to go to my Royal Banks of Missouri ATM, which is free, in which they have 200 ATMs across the Midwest, instead of getting a little cash out in South Carolina, because I'm sure the fees will be ridiculous. As you guys remember, I paid $6.50 ATM fee on the ship. You know, Royal Banks of Missouri has been around since 1964, so you know they're not going anywhere. And they have one of the safest bank ratings in the Missouri and Illinois region. Royal Banks of Missouri has 17 locations in St. Charles, Missouri, up Northeast Missouri, and Hannibal, Missouri, across the river in Jerseyville and Granite City, Illinois. Whether you need wealth management, home loans, personal business checking, Royal Banks Missouri has you covered. Check out my friends over at RoyalBanksMO.com. That's RoyalBanksMO.com. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank that is in your community.
Southern Armory, your hometown gun store. Come and be more than just a customer. Southern Armory, we carry the best guns, holsters, knives, magazines, ammunition, and even food storage. Special orders are welcome. Southern Armory, 1 mile east of 270 and 44, 9901 Watson Road, and SouthernArmory.com. That's SouthernArmory.com.
Whether you're purchasing your first firearm or adding to your collection at Southern Armory, you're more than a customer, you're part of the family. Follow Southern Armory on Facebook or at SouthernArmory.com.
Classic Kicks Country is streaming now. Hear all your new country favorites from the 90s.
I should have been a cowboy.
Streaming as it happened in the 90s. Classic Kicks.
Let's go, girls.
Download the Classic Kicks app from the App Store. Online at ClassicKicks.com.
I'll go back.
Or enable the Classic Kicks skill on Alexa.
I love this station.
90s New Country streaming now. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stiefel. Contact your Stiefel financial advisor at Stiefel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Are you confident that the majority of the hostages are alive? Hamas has said they are not holding all of them. Other groups are holding those hostages. Do you have any clarity on who is holding what hostages?
So this is not something about which we have perfect clarity. Obviously, we are relying on others who have been in touch with Hamas. The United States government does not speak directly with them. But we do believe that a significant number, and most likely the majority and even the vast majority of hostages are alive. We are certainly operating under that assumption, and we are going to work to get as many of them out, certainly including, by the way, a number of Americans who we believe are held hostage, as we can.
427 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Tim, there is a apparent deal on the table to release hostages, Hamas and Israel. Let's see what our next guest, see if he has any more information on that. Former U.S. Senator Jim Talent and chairman of the Reagan Institute.
I'm watching this and just wondering, who's running the show.
This Jim Talent segment is brought to you by Royal Banks of Missouri.
Senator, welcome to the show. Of course, we do want to get your thoughts on this potential hostage deal between Hamas and Israel, but also want to get your thoughts first on the passing of Rosalynn Carter, former First Lady.
Well, I know her only by reputation, and she certainly did have a good one. for being supportive of her husband. As I recall, and I was a young man during those times, a very sharp woman. I think they both care about the country a lot, and they served the country as well as they could. It was not an auspicious presidency, but I think it was a sincere one. And I think they both get some credit for that.
Mm-hmm. Senator, how about give us your thoughts, your insight and analysis on the current state of the war ongoing between Israel and Hamas and the potential negotiations we've been hearing about in the media about a hostage deal, which may be close in exchange for a temporary pause, probably not a true legitimate ceasefire.
Right. Well, Israel's winning, which if this is a real deal that Hamas is making, is the explanation for it. They're probably hoping with a ceasefire to be able to reconstitute. Israel has bisected the Gaza Strip and is tightening its grip on Gaza City. They just got into Al-Shifa Hospital. And by the way, fellas, you know who built Al-Shifa Hospital?
No.
The Israelis, those terrible anti-Palestinian people. They built it when they were in control of Gaza, turned it over to Hamas, which has turned it into a military camp. And the IDF is proving that. Anyway, the IDF is doing a good job of eliminating terrorists and their infrastructure. The deal, as I understand it, and none of us know the details, is that Hamas would release 50 hostages in return for a 24-hour ceasefire, and then every 24 hours would renew that. And I imagine what the Israelis will say is, look, we're going to give you a pause long enough to release the hostages. We're not waiting 24 hours for the first 50. The only other thing I'd say is I very much hope that the administration is not trying to pressure the Israelis into this, and I doubt it because I don't think it would work. I think the Israelis are making their own calls after what happened on October 7th. They're going to defend their people, and they like the rest of the world, to be with them, but they don't really care whether they are, and that's the right attitude.
Senator, let's head back to this hemisphere. Over in Argentina, they have elected a populist named Javier Milei. I think that's how you pronounce it. He has described himself
Don't
as...
ask me, brother.
He has described himself as a, quote, anarcho-capitalist, and he's been compared to former U.S. President Donald Trump. What do you know about President Javier?
Yeah, as far as the Trump comparisons, this is the tendency of our press to map their reductionist view of American life onto everybody else around the world. And for people who consider themselves cosmopolitan, and I don't consider myself that way, as Chris very well knows, they really act like the ugly American sometimes. This guy is a accredited economist, a tremendous analyst, and he's his own man, and he calls himself, I believe, a libertarian liberal, and he wants to get rid of the central bank, dollarize the currency, and cut the size of government a lot. And it sounds good to me because they have a poverty rate of 40% and an inflation rate of, I think, 143% in Argentina after all these Peronista governments that they've had. So, I wish him the best. He has flair, and he knows how to get a headline, which is helpful if you're in politics. Tim, I think if you and I had that, we might still be in office, right?
Yeah, and if we had his haircut too, he's got a pretty wild mop of hair too,
Yeah, it really does. I mean, we should have cultivated that.
It's like Boris Johnson-esque. Yeah.
Senator, that's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
Senator, I want to follow up on that point. Why is Senator is our national media so far gone and in the tank for everything on the left that anytime somebody, I think back to Giorgia Meloni in Italy. I think back to, about President Orban in Hungary, this new fella in Argentina. Anytime there's a world leader that gets elected who says, yeah, I actually want more freedom and liberty. I don't like left-leaning policies. Look at how bad our inflation rate is. It's like at 3,000% or something. Like if you compare the Argentinian peso to like the dollar, you can get like $0.00001 right now. He's apparently
there's like 20 different exchange rates.
Right.
By the way. I mean, it's basically become a black market.
Yeah.
There.
He's apparently pro-life. He's He's for individual gun rights. Why is it that our media, they completely light their hair on fire anytime somebody like that gets elected around the planet? They think it's like the second coming of the Antichrist.
Yeah, I think it's insecurity coupled with ignorance. And of course, when we say the media, we have to be fair. I mean, we're not talking about everybody in the media, but what is very clear about the media is that whereas when I started, and maybe even when you did, Tim, but I don't think so. When I started, if you were a reporter on political affairs or you were covering international affairs or something, I mean, you worked your way up. I mean, you didn't. Lots of these folks that I knew in the early days, they may have gone to college, but they didn't get a journalism degree. They were working reporters, and they learned something about their beats or their subjects. And obviously, some of them still do, but I think a lot of them really just don't know very much. And so it's easy for them to default to these preconceived notions. And I think economics has something to do with it. They're not investing. The companies are not investing as much in deeper resources and understanding, and ideological tribalism, and the fact that these newsrooms don't have any intellectual diversity in them. And it's just a fact that your own ideas get sharper if they're challenged. Tim, I used to say, and Chris may remember this, when before I do an interview, particularly if it was an important one, I'd say to the staff, "Now, what's the hardest question they might ask me? What's the weakest part of my views on this?" And if you have to actually think about that, then it strengthens your own ideas. You correct mistakes. You get better arguments for your positions, and I just don't think they do that in these newsrooms. I mean, if I could suggest something to the New York Times, I would say bring in some real thoughtful conservatives and Republicans once a quarter, and make your editors and your top reporters listen and engage. They don't have to agree, and they're not going to, but to listen, engage, ask. Bring Ted Cruz in. He goes around to college campuses. He has this podcast. And, he speaks for a bit, and then he says, "Okay, question time." And he said, "And those of you with hostile questions, you get to go to the front of the line."
Love it.
Because he knows, he was a champion debater. He's got a brilliant mind.
He does. Senator, the world's attention right now, of course, is focused on the wars in Ukraine, the wars in the Middle East, China's aggression towards Taiwan. But there's also an Islamist insurgency that's in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger in Africa. How worried are you that contagion could spread in Africa?
It's there because it's spread. These groups are interconnected. Now you can't just assume they're all operating off the same song sheet. They are independent actors to a significant extent, but we are living through an era of heightened Islamic radicalism. And, you read the great thinkers about why, and they have different opinions on it, but, wherever it takes root, it means death and violence, and wherever it takes power, it means Sharia law and oppression to one degree or another, right? So it's a challenge. I have to say it depends. We always have to look at these things in terms of what are America's interests in those places. And, the reason we're occupied more with Europe and the Middle East and Asia is because those are generally speaking the parts of the world where our interests are most engaged. But we have to pay attention everywhere. It's because there's opportunities, but there's also dangers for us everywhere. We live in a much tighter world, and with cyber and bio possibilities out there, the homeland is vulnerable in a way that was not true in the last century.
Speaking to former U.S. Senator Jim Talent, chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Senator, there's we've got one of our monitors on in the studio, and there's a tree lighting going on right now in Manhattan. And it's not the big tree lighting. I think it's maybe the one at Fox Square, but I think it's really nice. They're doing some kind of homage to the Jewish people, to the state of Israel, before they do the tree line. They've got, I think it may be Cardinal Dolan standing next to a Jewish rabbi, and the rabbi is speaking right now. And they've got the Jewish, they got the Star of David, right next to the Christmas tree. And I think they're pointing out that, this is the alliance that needs to be protected. This is the alliance of democracy. This is the alliance of freedom and liberty. And as much as we want the Palestinian people not to have to suffer through this, I mean, it was the Hamas agents that started this. It's the Hamas agents that are going to have to be defeated through this. And the difference is they're trying the agents of Hamas. They're the ones trying to destroy Israel just because of their very being, right? They don't like the fact that Israel exists. Anybody who doesn't like the Palestinians or Hamas is because of the actions that they've actually taken, right? And so it just seems to me like there's a very clear side of good versus evil here. There's a lot of gray in the world, but Senator, I don't see this as one. Do you?
No, I don't. The great demarcation line that this conflict has surfaced is between those who believe that individual human beings have an inherent worth just because of their humanity, and regardless of their religion or their race or their creed, and those who don't. I mean, those who believe in a sort of caste system of human value. And if you're in the groups they favor, you're at the top of that. And if you're not, you're less than human. And we can invade your neighborhoods and kill you and rape your women and burn your babies to death. So that's the demarcation line, and Israel is on the right side of that line, and Hamas is on the wrong side. And yeah, there's a whole lot of complications in history involved in it, but that's what this conflict basically resolves to. And there's I think a lot of the people that I'm really pleased to see these demonstrations for Israel. I think a lot of the other demonstrations we've seen are people and young people who really haven't been taught anything about the Middle East. So I think a lot of it is ignorance rather than malice. But they ought to be self-aware enough to know what they don't know, and they ought to get a little bit educated, because they're making fools out of themselves and shaming the country and hurting the cause of human decency too.
Senator, it's coming up on about a year when you and Dakota Wood, when we had our event at View 17, warning us about the state of our military. I hate that you were right, but the Wall Street Journal had an article yesterday or today with a headline, "The era of total U.S. submarine dominance over China is ending." You have a comment?
Yeah, I saw that piece. I still have confidence that we have a significant lead in the undersea domain. The big problem right now is, number one, we don't have enough boats. And number two, about 40% of our submarine fleet at any given time is laid up for maintenance because we don't have the maintenance facilities to take care of them. But it is true that the Chinese are getting better with their submarines. They're acquiring more capabilities. They're more stealthy. I still have confidence in our edge there, but it's like in a lot of places. I mean, it's the same thing with the Air Force. I mean, our best aircraft are better than their best ones, but their best ones are pretty damn good and good enough for their purposes, and they're getting better. I mean, here's a fact that'll frighten you. I mean, they have one shipyard with more capacity than all our shipyards. They have the biggest shipyard capacity in the world, and they already have a substantially larger Navy than we have. And mass and capacity is what the Pentagon calls it. That means the size of the force matters. And they're able to dominate the East and South China Sea because they have the ships, and they're multi-mission modern ships. They're plenty capable technically, but they don't have to be the best ships in the world if you got enough of them.
Senator, thank you as always for giving us your perspective this Monday, and hopefully when we talk to you next week, we'll be talking about hostages being released.
Yes, we should all say a prayer to that effect, Chris.
Thank you so much, sir, and look forward to talking to you next week.
Okay.
Excellent. And Tim, as we were saying about Chris's Corner, I'm going to kind of give my thoughts on the Jimmy Carter presidency, Rosalind Carter, the 70-year marriage of the Carters, and how remarkable that is. We didn't agree with everything with the Carter administration, but when it comes to their post-presidency and the things that they try to do to try to better humanity, you have to give them all credit for that. We'll talk about that more when we come back on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Keep the umbrellas handy. More rain at times this evening, and even overnight we'll see some showers. It'll start to taper off, but you might have a spotty lingering shower during the morning drive. Otherwise, we're drying out, but it stays cloudy and chilly on Tuesday. A low of 42 degrees and a high of just 46. It'll be breezy and cloudy and dry in the afternoon with a wind around 10 to 20 miles per hour. We'll get more sunshine in here on Wednesday with a high of 49 and mostly sunny skies. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
So the new president of Argentina is against abortion, he's pro-gun, and he vowed to cut ties with China. Nick Schroer likes that. We'll talk to the state senator Tuesday at 9:05.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Well, if you weren't preparing for it yet, you better get prepared for it now. This is the week of Thanksgiving. We are fully and utterly into the season of giving. Don't forget the reason for the season, but also don't forget the special people in your life. They do both of those things at Newstetter's Fine Jewelers. Newstetter's, our neighborhood jewelry store since 1961. Richard and his entire multi-generational team of family members and so many others take great pride in being local and family-owned. They're right here in St. Louis. Their store is right in the heart of St. Louis County. I swing by it all the time because it's so convenient to get to. 2961 Daugherty Ferry Road. Stop by and experience the Newstetter's difference today. It is a feeling. It is something that you will walk out of and go, hey, they actually listened to me. They actually cared about what I wanted to do, and they're actually doing something really awesome for the loved ones in my life. Suzanne and I are going to be swinging there pretty soon. She's got an idea for, she's got some older jewelry from, I think, her grandmother that she wants to combine with something she currently has. She's like, where do we go to do this? I said, of course we go to Newstetter's because Richard is a master engraver. That means he can create incredible jewelry solutions right there in the store, and that way you'll have confidence that everything is done here locally without any problems at all. They do jewelry repair, master engraving, jewelry appraisals, fine watch repair and sales, pearl and bead restringing, and so much more. Their diamonds are second to none. It's why they named their website after them, wowdiamonds.com. Check out Newstetter's today. Open weekdays 10 a.m. to 5:30, Saturdays 10 a.m. to 3. They're at wowdiamonds.com. That's wowdiamonds.com.
Hey, I'm here with one of our great friends, Rob Connor from Connor Roofing. You know, I talk about all the time who to trust, and trusting a company is everything to me. Why do people trust Connor Roofing?
Well, 30 years of being an honest roofing company that you can call and get an honest opinion on your project. We've got thousands of customers that are very happy that they did call us.
If there's a storm, the shingles fly off the house, first thing you should do is call 314-375-7475. That's how you get in touch with Connor Roofing or connorroofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com.
I think the role of the First Lady is changing as the role of women is changing. And I don't think that a First Lady could go to the White House anymore and just be a hostess. A first lady has so much influence. She can help any cause. You can go to a fundraiser and the tickets will be sold out just because, not because I was there, but because of the First Lady is coming and the First Lady will be there. The First Lady can get the attention of the legislature. The legislature doesn't always react the way the First Lady would have them react, but you can get their attention and you can get issues out there.
448 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and that is former First Lady Rosalynn Carter, who died yesterday at the age of 96. Her husband, President Jimmy Carter, is 99 years old, and he has been in hospice since February. And so, you know, as I said before, I think it was during the break, that the Carters, I didn't necessarily agree with their policies. But it was a time during my life, 5th grade to 9th grade, when President Carter was president, that I kind of grew up in politics. And when I first started really paying attention to politics. And so I want to go over a little bit about that next on Chris's Corner.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
You know, I'd always been kind of a political nerd. I was 6 or 7 years old during the early 70s with Watergate. I really didn't understand what was totally going on with it, but I was kind of into politics and things like that, and so it interested me. And I remember because of that, I got a little more interest when Gerald Ford became president because Richard Nixon resigned. I can remember that day in August, watching that, didn't really understand the history of it. I can remember Saturday Night Live lampooning Gerald Ford as this bumbling, stumbling fool that couldn't walk downstairs or walk straight. Kind of sounds like a president that we have today. But it was a campaign that I was 10 years old in 1976. I can remember the Republican convention was in Kansas City. Ronald Reagan had challenged Gerald Ford for the nomination during that time. It was the 200th anniversary of the country's founding. It was the bicentennial. It was my first summer in 1976. I'd ever stayed away from home for a summer. I spent that summer in Houston. And we all remember, if you're old enough, the 1976 Summer Olympics when the Spinks brothers here in St. Louis made their mark on boxing by winning gold medals, and all of the great boxers like Sugar Ray Leonard, who came out of the 76 Olympics, which were in Montreal. So it was a period where I was coming of age and was starting to follow politics a little bit. And I can remember President Carter. The nation was in a malaise because of Watergate. People didn't trust politicians. And here was this guy from Georgia, a peanut farmer, a everyday kind of guy who was campaigning on a populist theme. And the people were tired of politics, were tired of scandal. And so they elected this Georgia peanut farmer. And I can remember his inauguration. He was one of the first presidents to actually get out of the limousine and walk and greet the people. One of the first acts that Jimmy Carter did as president is he sold, a lot of people don't know this, but the president used to have a presidential yacht. Jimmy Carter sold the presidential yacht to try to be more of a man of people when he would take airplane flights or flights on the helicopter. He would carry his own bags. There's pictures of that. He was a man of the people, it seemed. And the people embraced him. I can remember there was a show on ABC. It was a comedy show called Carter Country. Mm-hmm. And it was a show where it was people that were from Jimmy Carter's rural community was showing life in that small town. So people would embrace him, were willing to give their president a chance. But I'll never forget when I was in 8th grade, when that fateful day when 444 hostages were taken captive by Iranian students and militants, and that changed Jimmy Carter's presidency forever, basically ended his presidency. We all remember the ill-fated rescue attempt in the desert where 2 helicopters ran into each other. The mission had to be called off. You couple that with the nation having high inflation and energy prices, along with our hostages being held, and America just, was ready for a change. And Jimmy Carter was booted out in a 49-state landslide. His vice president, Walter Mondale, was also lost in a 49 landslide. one of the problems they say about Jimmy Carter's presidency was he was a micromanager and didn't give people, his subordinates, a chance to govern. And a lot of people say that handicapped his presidency. And I also think he just wasn't a very good leader as well. He was good for the state of Georgia, did well there. But to lead the United States, his policies obviously weren't very good. A lot of people don't know that during his presidency, Jimmy Carter had the House and the Senate. That's very rare in this century to have that. And I think he vetoed like 20 bills that came to his desk when he had complete control of everything. So he didn't have the best relationship with Congress of his own party. And the pickings were ripe for Ronald Reagan, a sunny, optimist communicator, to come into office and beat him. And, of course, the rest is history. Jimmy Carter took a long time to rehabilitate his image. He did that with the Carter Center. He did that with Habitat for Humanity and all of that. And what I admire the most about the Carters is as a man who adores his wife and wouldn't be anywhere where he's at now if it wasn't for her. I just adore the fact that here was a wife that was in politics, that stood by her husband and was there for him for 77 years. And I think the quote of the day comes from former President Carter's statement that he made after his wife passed. And he said, in all the 77 years that he and Rosalind were married, he always knew that with her, there was going to be one person on this planet that would always be there for him, support him, and love him. So goodbye, Rosalind Carter. You lived a good life. You were a faithful wife. And I know Jimmy Carter is in hospice, and I don't know how much he's aware of surroundings, but I can only imagine being married to someone that long and being that big a part of your life, how difficult it must be not having it in your life. One side note to show you just how far the Carters went back, Rosalind and Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter's mother delivered Rosalind Carter as a baby.
Wow.
That's how far they go back, and they were in each other's lives all that time. So rest in peace, Rosalind Carter, and our thoughts and prayers go to the Carter family. And, this is not political. This is just human empathy. Wish his family the best. And that is Chris's Corner. 77 years plus.
Amazing. They seem like... even though he was maybe a lovable loser liberal with misguided policies, they seem like decent people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think people sometimes think that even in today's world that everybody has to first of all find out what your politics are, which is not true anymore. But, okay, and then if you're on the wrong side, then you can't be friends. We all have plenty of friends that don't agree with us on everything, much less everything politically. He's the kind of guy, once again, you could probably hang out with. You just didn't want him running the country.
And I agree. But Jimmy did go off the rails a little bit when it came to North Korea, when he was siding with them over the United States, when it came to some of these hostage issues and with North Korea's nuclear program. He got kind of a Bush derangement syndrome there and was hating on him. But other than that, I think they both lived exemplary lives, and their family should be proud of them.
I enjoyed his post-presidency because then he couldn't make any decisions that would wreck the country, but he tried to do a lot of good things for humanity.
Speaker stump speech?
Yep, we're going to talk about a brand new study that shows how insane it was for us to do pretty much everything that we did during the COVID years.
And at 5:24, we'll have Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at Red State. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
His mind was his own, but the man lived alone. Ooh, super.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
Hey, Columbo here with a great offer from the cleaning pros at Zero Res. Just mention the Columbo special when you book a cleaning in November, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $129 plus $50 off an air duct cleaning. We trust Zero Res because they're simply the best when it comes to cleaning any surface in your home, and they stand behind every cleaning with their gotta love it guarantee. Just remember to mention the Columbo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
Bring your family to the 4th annual Moolah Festival of Trees to experience a winter wonderland with over 40 exquisitely decorated Christmas trees with amazing gift packages November 19th through 26th at the Moolah Shrine. Purchase raffle tickets for just $1 for a chance to take home one or more of these creative and beautifully designed trees, including the gifts, which include toys, tools, sports items, kayaks, barbecue pits, gift cards, and even a complete HVAC system for your home. Tree values range from $500 to over $12,000. The Festival of Trees is an exciting Christmas event for all ages. You can take a souvenir photo with Santa Claus to capture a memory of the spirit of Christmas. And be sure to visit Santa's Cafe for some refreshing treats. Adult admission is $2. Kids 12 and under are free at the Moolah Shrine Center at 12545 Fifi Road. Details at moolah.org.
Vincent's Jewelers has the hottest gift for the holidays. Flexible bracelets. Quality, beauty, starting at just $150. And of course, you'll want to check for rings, pendants, maybe watches. I suggest you check the website each day for new items and specials. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. Give Vincent's a chance for your business. Vincent's, locally owned, supporting local charities for more than 42 years. Vincent's, my only jeweler.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. A federal appeals court is weighing reinstating a gag order on Donald Trump in his landmark D.C. election case. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
In court Monday, Donald Trump's lawyer, Jack Sauer, urged the three-judge panel to revoke a gag order against the former president.
The order is unprecedented, and it sets a terrible precedent for future restrictions on core political speech.
The prosecutors said a gag order is necessary to prevent intimidation and threats in the case, which charges the former president with scheming to overturn the 2020 election. The judges, including Brad Garcia, asked skeptical and at times aggressive questions of attorneys on both sides.
This is predictably going to intensify as well as the threats. And so why isn't the district court justified in taking a proactive measure?
I'm Julie Walker.
Funeral arrangements have been announced for former First Lady Rosalind Carter, who died Sunday at age 96. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
The Carter Center says several ceremonies are planned for next week to celebrate the life of Mrs. Carter, the late wife of former President Jimmy Carter. On Monday, there will be a wreath laying at Georgia Southwestern State University, and later she will lie in repose at the Carter Presidential Library, where the public can pay respects. On Tuesday, a tribute service will be held at Emory University. Then on Wednesday, a funeral service for family and invited friends before a private burial at the Carter family residence. Greg Clugston, Washington.
President Biden has spent part of his 81st birthday observing the White House tradition of pardoning Thanksgiving turkeys. Gobblers Liberty and Bell received executive clemency Monday at a White House ceremony. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 203 points, the Nasdaq rose 159, the S&P advanced 33. More at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Are you looking for a meaningful way to preserve our nation's history? Consider purchasing a Blueprints of Liberty brick. Each purchase helps to build Liberty Village. By sponsoring a brick, you become a part of the Blueprints of Liberty Village, a unique destination that brings our founding history to life. This family-friendly location will provide an opportunity for youth and visitors to encounter history like never before. Visit UnitedWePledge.org to order your Blueprints of Liberty brick today.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Keep the umbrellas handy. More rain at times this evening, and even overnight we'll see some showers. It'll start to taper off, but you might have a spotty lingering shower during the morning drive. Otherwise, we're drying out, but it stays cloudy and chilly on Tuesday. A low of 42 degrees and a high of just 46. It'll be breezy and cloudy and dry in the afternoon with a wind around 10 to 20 miles per hour. We'll get more sunshine in here on Wednesday with a high of 49 and mostly sunny skies. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
I ran into Rodney and Jen Wallner the other night. We were at an event together. They're actually going to be down at Guns N' Hoses this week. They're big supporters of Backstoppers. They do so much for the community because they are in and of the community, Rodney and Jen Wallner are. And I asked them how are things going in the real estate world, which is their 24/7, 365 business. They said, thankfully, we're actually pretty darn busy because even though interest rates are up, hopefully they'll be coming back down again soon, the market is so tight, it is a great time to be a seller. And I'm not just telling you this, folks. It's not just, yes, we're doing a commercial here, but it's based in very much in reality. And what the Wallners said is that they were extremely, in fact, the other day they couldn't come on the show because they were busy showing a bunch of homes. So if you are thinking about selling your home, it's an okay time to pick up the phone and call Rodney and Jen Wallner, the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway, at 314-810-SOLD. They'll offer you a flexible commission plan tailored to your family's specific needs. It will always include one thing, though, and that's to your benefit. It will have a no obligation, no long-term commitment clause, right? Long gone, at least with the Wallners, are the days where you are stuck with a real estate agent until seemingly the end of time, no matter how bad things get. You won't have bad times with the Wallners. You'll have great times. But just in case it becomes not a good time to sell your home, you don't have to sit around and fret about it and go, oh, I got this contract with the Wallners. You can walk away. You can come back, whatever. They want you to be happy with the selling and or buying experience. They are a husband and wife team. You get that unique family perspective, not just that of one agent. That's really unique and priceless because Rodney and Jen are, yes, they're married. They are a loving, devoted couple, husband, wife, father, mother, but they have different life experiences and they have different they have different attributes, and they bring all of that. They bring 200% to the selling process. Call the Wallners today. You'll get a free listing consultation, and you're going to sell your home with this top-producing real estate team. Rodney and Jen Wallner at 314-810-SOLD. That's 314-810-SOLD.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Getting a new floor for your home can be intimidating and a little scary. But that's not the case when you go to Michael's Flooring Outlet. Katie here, and my mom and dad used Michael's, and they had a great experience. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 30 years. You want variety? Michael's has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Shop in-store at one of their 3 locations in Creve Coeur, Dardine Prairie, or St. Peters. Check out everything that Michael's has to offer at igotfloored.com.
Listen anytime.
It happens
anywhere. Everywhere.
Every day continues to bring more news.
With the News Talk STL app. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com. This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but
Now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
I'm also worried about just the overall demeanor and attitude that Joe Biden had at that summit. It's one thing to meet with our communist adversaries. That's what we expect our leaders to do. I do that on occasion on trips around the world. It's another thing for Joe Biden to say that it was an honor and a pleasure to welcome a communist dictator like Xi Jinping to America. That's not the kind of thing Ronald Reagan would have said when he brought Mikhail Gorbachev to the White House. I also noted that you had John Kerry there, whose monomaniacal obsession is some fleeting climate change deal with China, but you didn't have representatives of the Department of Defense or our intelligence agencies at a high level. So I worry very much about the mood music that Joe Biden was trying to set at this summit and the signals that it'll send to Xi Jinping as he takes the measure of a man he may have to face off against sometime in the near future in a conflict over Taiwan.
Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Hour number 2. Thanks for joining us. 5:09 in the p.m. if you're in the Central Standard Time Zone. It is Monday of the holiday week, November the 20th, 2023. Just because it's the holiday week, that doesn't mean we're necessarily going to be disappearing from your lifestyle on a daily basis. So you can take us with you if you're traveling this week. We will be broadcasting. We will have content for you this entire week. Chris is going to be taking a few days off this week. I'll be off a few days next week. We're both, God willing, and the creek don't rise, going to be broadcasting together. Chris, from we're doing this for the people.
Exactly.
I can't say this with a straight face. We're spending late November in Scottsdale, Arizona, because somebody has to do it.
Somebody has to do it. Look, I will suffer 80-degree temperatures for you all, for ALEC, and we're going to be out there for ALEC conference.
Yes, we're going to be out there with our ALEC friends, American Legislative Exchange Council. It's the trade association for statewide legislators that the lunatic left loves to hate, which means ALEC must be a great organization. Their mission, here's their mission statement: limited government, free markets, and federalism.
Good thing.
So that's why the left, of course, can't stand them. So we're going to be out there for a few days, and the plan right now, and you all don't have to worry about this. This is next week. This is light years away because we're all going to eat a lot of food and have a good time over the next week or so. We're going to be out there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's the plan. So we'll have the opportunity to snag a lot of cool guests. ALEC always attracts a lot of interesting people from the federal level as well. Always a lot of cool guest speakers. So maybe we can line some really neat folks up. But we are here throughout the week. All of our programs will be are running on all cylinders. We're happy to report that everything seems to be working swimmingly at the new studio. Joey, are there any gremlins in the machines, or any that you want to tell us about, or just the less Chris and I know, the better?
You know what? I really like how far away the bathrooms are from the studio. So no rumblings, no gremlins will be caught on the mic here. It's like outside in the hall. It's a whole separate area from what we do here, the important work.
I've noticed the mics seem to be turned up a little higher. I don't have to be as close to it seems to.
Things are crisp.
Yeah.
The mic requested that. You're like, if you could get Chris just a little bit further away from me.
with COVID and everything.
Yeah.
Did you give the mics a tune-up or something, Joey? Because this is the same exact equipment.
Yeah.
It's just been moved to a different place. It's kind of weird. Maybe
I'm farther away, but I can hear myself clear.
Somebody must have dropped it, and that just knocked something loose, and it's all good now.
Or someone just plugged it in and plugged it. We unplugged it over there, plugged it in here, and that always improves things. Just
why does everything work better when you do that?
Yeah.
It really does.
We were surrounded by a whole rail line system and power lines, and the highway went over us. So I'm sure it's just more peaceful now. The equipment can relax.
That's probably it.
Right here in the beautiful manse of Maryland Heights. So thanks for joining us this afternoon. We can still be found everywhere you found us last week, and for the 2.5 year. That's weird to say.
It is.
We have entered our 3rd year of broadcasting. Our 3rd anniversary will be this coming July. But you can listen to us every way you've always been able to listen to us. 101.9, 94.1 on your FM dial. If we call it a dial anymore, I guess we'll just punch buttons.
On your tuner.
Yeah, on your tuner. You can, of course, stream us online at newstalkstl.com. You can download our app. That's probably, pound for pound, probably the easiest and best way if you're going to be traveling or if you need flexibility throughout the day. Download that app for iPhone or Android. You can connect that, of course, to any Bluetooth device imaginable. You can have us play on Alexa or Google speakers. There's a million different ways to listen to radio. And as Jeff Allen always tells us, because he keeps up on all the industry stuff, it's approaching over half the people in the country. By the way, 80% of Americans, for those of you who think that radio is, that's cute, that's like the phonograph. No, 80% plus of Americans listen to some form of local radio every day. And out of that 80%, over 50% of Americans listen to the radio on something other than a radio, which is amazing to me.
And part of that is the reason why this radio station has been successful, because people want to listen to local radio, and we talk about the national issues and, of course, the local issues. And I think that's why people are tuning in and why the station is growing every day.
We span the spectrum on personalities, too. We have folks that have lived all over the country, maybe all over the world. We have some of our... If I call Larry and Vic our wise elders, will I get in trouble?
Nah.
Probably so. We have. How about household names? We have household names like Vic Porcelli and Larry Connors. We have all the newbies here, like you and I, who up until a few years ago did not do radio full time. We just dabbled in it and had a fun time doing it. And now we do it on a daily basis. We've got the folks like Tony Colombo who have made their career in radio, and we have incredible support and production and engineering with Joey and Q and Katie and Ken and all the people who work behind the scenes here.
I just love watching Vic work because, the first 90% of his career he did music radio.
Yes.
But we're very fortunate to work with somebody who is a broadcast professional and knows the art of radio. And it's a beautiful thing just seeing that transition of his from doing music radio to now doing talk radio. But because he's so good at radio, he can make that transition. Not a lot of people can do that. And we're fortunate that we can watch Vic work and maybe learn something. Same with Larry. A lot of people don't realize that, Larry did radio before he did TV. He was a radio guy. And so we have all that experience to teach us the art of doing radio. It's not just standing behind a microphone and talking. There's actually kind of a science to it. Not saying that we've mastered it at all, but we've got people here who have, Vic and Larry Connors.
And Vic defines the term infotainment.
Yes, exactly.
He is extremely entertaining, and he'll tell you he's still learning. Vic sometimes undersells himself.
Big time.
He's learned a lot in the last 3 years, and he has gotten himself really engaged in the details of policy and public politics, but he delivers it. His delivery is so great because he is literally talking to all of the everyday men and women of Missouri and beyond who are just trying to get up and survive every single day of Joe Biden's America.
Yeah.
So
Vic has mastered, to me, the art of radio of when Vic is speaking to you, you feel like he's speaking directly to you.
Yes.
And that you're his friend and that you have coffee with Vic every day or you actually know Vic. And that is a real talent, a real skill to do that. And that's 40 years of being in radio.
It's that connectivity that he has mastered in such a high way. And Larry the same way. When you watch somebody and you feel a connection with them, when you watch them on TV or radio and you listen to them for years and decades, when you meet them for the first time, they've met you for the first, they don't know you from Adam, but you feel like you've had a cup of coffee or a beer with them every day because you've done those things while listening to them.
Exactly.
You've eaten your bowl of cereal with Vic Porcelli and your cup of coffee or whatever.
Or like now, I have the opportunity of showering with Nick every morning.
Yeah, you do. We often hear about that. And it's you say it's a new experience every week.
It is every morning. And Nick says, Vic says, don't ask him to bend over and get the soap.
Yes, he does, of course, as Vic always would. So we're very excited, as you can tell. We're a little giddy today because it's a holiday week and we're in our new place and we're excited. And we'll eventually be able to show that off to all you all. But, of course, the world turns and there's so much going on the planet Earth. A lot of it is not good. And, I do hope that all of you all are able – and so many of you have a tough time around this time of year, right? A lot of people have a lot of depression around this time of year because the days are shorter. There's less light in the sky. You and I have talked about that. You have a freaking light lamp because of it.
Yes.
And it affects me, too. I am not a fan of losing all that daylight. I feel it as well. I think if you're a normal human being, you do. But some people really get affected by it. And for some people, the holidays remind them of personal loss and grief. And so for all of you who have to deal with that this time of year, we hope you can find some peace and some tranquility. And you know what? We're here for you. We're here you turn us on. We're going to be here every day throughout this week in the holiday season. So if you need a friend, We're always here as well. You can always jump onto Facebook,
Yeah.
Rumble. We try to look at all the comments and respond to you. And just thank you so much. Hey, big shout out to Scotty, our good friend Scotty, who has served us in our
Day one.
nation's armed forces and been with us here at this radio station since day one. Always said so. He wrote a very nice message on Friday as we were wrapping up things at Union Station and heading here, because he listens that closely. So he knows exactly what's going on in our lives. And he was just wishing us all the best. So thank you to Scotty and to the Lindas and to the Lisas and to the Karens and to the I know we have a bunch of people who are our regulars, and we appreciate you very much. And we want you to bring more people, bring more friends to the News Talk STL Nation party.
And speaking of Scott, I know a few weeks ago we promoted a fundraiser for his sister who got into an accident.
A horrible accident.
And Tim, I saw a video last week of his sister coming home, getting in the car, driving. I think she was on crutches or needed a little help walking, but it was a miracle, because I remember reading about how bad the accident was, and Scotty asking for prayers for his sister. And it was heartwarming to see her coming home and being able to walk to that vehicle and leave the hospital.
I agree with you. I didn't tell Scotty this. I got distracted at the time, so I'm just going to tell him now because he's probably listening. Scotty, I was really glad you posted. I got a little emotional seeing that.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I have a sister. A lot of us have siblings, or you have a special person in your life. And when they recover from something that dramatic, it is a very emotional thing indeed. So, Scotty, we're so happy for you that you get your sister back home, closer to you for the holidays. Checking out the chat box on Facebook. Yep, as we thought, we have Lisa on there today. We have Linda. Scotty's on there. And let me see if I'm missing else. And Tanya jumped in as well into the fray. So thank you to everybody. We're on Facebook. We're on Rumble. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter, and we thank you all for following us throughout the day.
Ask Lisa. Lisa, how many hours are you working today?
That lady, man, I don't know how she does it. She burns it at all ends, and you know what? She always seems like a happy warrior.
She does.
Indeed. We've got Susie Moore coming up at 5:25 to talk to us about everything happening on Red State. I do have a short, to the point, but very interesting and insightful Speaker Stump speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
I'm always impressed by these Joe and Jane Americans who somehow get hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter, and they just seem like, just normal, great Americans. They must have interesting stories to tell, and, we're working on it every day. We're getting more followers here on all of our Twitter feeds. Follow us at News Talk STL, Chris_Arps, Speaker Tim Jones. I found a fella by the name of Kevin Bass. I had never heard of Kevin Bass before. He has 116 followers and counting on Twitter. And his bio is very interesting. So I got a new friend for you guys to follow. He's at Kevin N. Bass, at Kevin N. Bass. And it says Kevin Bass, PhD and medical student. So he's in medical training. And here's what he says. So it says med student, scientist, father of 3. That's an accomplishment right there.
It is. And middle school.
Yes. As seen on Tucker Carlson and in Newsweek. So he's obviously a smart dude indeed, and very driven. Views do not reflect those of my colleagues. Live not by lies. The famous quote from Solzhenitsyn. So Kevin Bass caught my attention because of something that he said about COVID. So here's a medical student who is also a scientist. He already has his PhD, so he's a smart dude, and he's about to get his MD. New meta-analysis. Meta means big, folks. New meta-analysis of 40, count them, 40 high-quality studies. Chris and I talked about this at the beginning of the show. Normal people would presume that after we had a 3-year global pandemic where we shut down schools, nearly shut down the globe, ruined our economies, changed our lives in many ways, affected, arguably, a presidential election, and so many other things.
True.
You would think that people would be interested in looking back at those times and going, what did we learn? Did we learn anything? Should we have done things differently? I know those studies are going on, but because of the results, I have a strong feeling we're not hearing about much of the outcomes. And here's proof positive of that right here. This study that Kevin Bass, PhD medical student, has listed on Twitter at Kevin N. Bass. COVID death rate in 2020 for people younger than 70 years old was, get this, 0.07%. Remember in the very beginning, They warned us that COVID could be the big one. It could be the Ebola virus gone wild. It was going to wipe out half of humanity or more. Well, that quickly was learned not to be true, but it seemed like the media didn't want to project that much. They didn't want to talk about it. They should have been trumpeting that from the rooftop so we could stop being all scared to death every single day and wondering if we should keep bleaching our bananas with Clorox. Remember those days? 1 in 1,500. 1 in 1,500. Kevin Bass says, we locked down for that. We created massive learning loss in children for that, which even the New York Times pointed out is a real thing over the weekend. They finally realized that 3 years too late. We forced everyone to take a brand new, untested, unknown complications result, novel mRNA vaccine that did not stop transmission whatsoever, even though they told us it would, and many other things. And finally, we destabilized our society and our economy and created runaway inflation for that as well. He cites the study. Folks, this is legit. Here's the abstract from the medical journals right here. Meta-regression analysis also suggested global IFR was 0.03% and 0.07% respectively in these age groups. I think when we look back, we're going to see that the adjusted excess mortality rates were much lower than they originally predicted. It happened. We're not saying it didn't happen. It was horrible. We're not saying that wasn't true. But it seemed that the government reaction, and thereby the reactions that all of us as humans were forced to take, caused much more damage than if we had just gone on to get on like they did in places like Sweden and a lot of the other Nordic countries that did not have the damage to their children or to their economies that we had here in the U.S., the UK, and in much other of the Western world. We need to keep studying COVID. We need to not forget that this happened. We need to learn these lessons and make sure that we know what the science and the data really was. So the next time this comes around, we won't just, quote, take Tony Fauci's word for it. And that's the Speaker's stump speech for today, November the 20th, 2023. We should be learning from all of this.
We should. And playing devil's advocate, and this is not my position, let me point that out at first. You know, when we had a global pandemic, something novel, we'd never seen it before or anything, was it okay to talk about a total lockdown until we figure out exactly what this is or should have been?
Yes.
Initially.
But what Dr. Bass and others will tell you is, Chris, the thing that was kept from us, a lot of the doctors and scientists, and I think Bob Onder would agree with this, they learned very quickly within the first few weeks what this was really doing with all the massive amounts of global data that was coming in. The government never let us really change course. We never adapted properly for it. In Sweden, they did. Yeah. In Sweden, they did adapt. They had partial shutdowns, very minor lockdowns. They kept kids in school. And guess what, Chris? Their mortality rate in Sweden was lower than in the state of New York.
You know, initially, I supported, hey, total lockdown until we figure out what this thing is, how to fight it. But once we got into like year 1 and year 2, and we saw that most of the casualties, the fatalities were older people who had comorbidities or younger people who had comorbidities, that those were the people that were dying. That's when we should have changed course and said, hey, let's change our philosophy on trying to protect older people.
Correct.
And let's keep society open for the rest of us where it's not affecting us as much. I hope the next time we have another pandemic, which we will, I hope we learn that lesson and don't become knee-jerk and just shut everything down again. And Tim, I think a big part of why we shut everything down was I think these politicians were afraid of, if I don't shut everything down and take everything to the max, if something happens and thousands of people die and I didn't shut this down, this will be my legacy forever, that you're responsible for tens of thousands of deaths. And I think that's why a lot of these people didn't look at the science of these are the people that are dying. They're like, I don't want this on my head that I didn't do everything as possible and tens of thousands of people died.
No, you're right. It was the fear of fear itself, which, as Winston Churchill taught us a long time ago, is no way to run a government. Yeah. And you're right. And if those people had their way, Chris, we'd still be locked down to this very day.
Sam Page.
Sam
Page still wants to have us locked down. I was talking about that a few months ago.
He just hates people. Just hates people, I guess. I don't know. All right. We don't hate our next guest. We love her. Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at Red State, the host of More to the Point, the commentary. Should be joining us next to talk about the top headlines at Red State. And boy, there's some doozies today. We'll unpack all of that when we return here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Yeah, we're running a little bit hot tonight.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Keep the umbrellas handy. More rain at times this evening, and even overnight we'll see some showers. It'll start to taper off, but you might have a spotty lingering shower during the morning drive. Otherwise, we're drying out, but it stays cloudy and chilly on Tuesday. A low of 42 degrees and a high of just 46. It'll be breezy and cloudy and dry in the afternoon with a wind around 10 to 20 miles per hour. We'll get more sunshine in here on Wednesday with a high of 49 and mostly sunny skies. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
News, analysis, opinion.
The 2024 race is just getting started.
I think you can anticipate additional weapons to go to Ukraine as they continue this counteroffensive and to defend against Russian attacks.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
You know, when rough weather hits like what we're experiencing now and over the next 24 hours or so, I always think of Eureka Contracting and Roofing, and you should too, because when storms hit, I don't want you to sign up with the first bozo salesperson who knocks on your door at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I want you to first call the folks at Eureka Contracting and Roofing for a no-pressure, no-obligation inspection of your entire homestead. 636-938-ROOF. 636-938-ROOF is their number. Very memorable indeed. Or you can just jump on the web and look at eurekacontracting.com. Fully licensed and insured. They've been in business for nearly 12 years, over 30 years of experience in, get this, the exact industries that you want somebody like Eureka Contracting to be experienced in, claims adjusting and construction. That's why they created Eureka Contracting. A lot of great talents like Rick Hinkson and the gang there that all come together to fix up your homestead lickety-split. They can do siding, roofing, gutters. We've unfortunately, well, I guess fortunately for us, we had Eureka Contracting to do all those things. It was unfortunate that we had to replace everything, but Eureka Contracting made the entire process so easy. They took care of everything for us. And, you know, many of you are like us. You've got, you know, 2 people in the household working 50-plus hours a week, and you don't have time to be taking care of all this stuff. Eureka Contracting takes all of that off your plate, and they handle it for you. Roofs can typically be entirely fixed and repaired and replaced in one day. Gutters and siding, you know, maybe a day or two for the siding, but let me tell you, they did ours in I think it was 2 days. It was really fantastic. I want you to call them today and get them out to your homestead if you need anything done before the end of the year. 636-938-ROOF, 636-938-ROOF, eurekacontracting.com, eurekacontracting.com.
This is Christina Straight with Straight Realty reminding you, why pay more than 4? In 2003, we had a dream to start a real estate company that would revolutionize the real estate market. Now, 20 years later, after navigating through the many market's ups and downs, we know exactly how to help you in this challenging time. I'm Christina Straight, owner Straight Realty. Don't give away your hard-earned equity. Give us a call today, 314-441-4444, 314-441-all-4s. And remember, why pay more than 4?
Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri.
Investment advisory services offered through OWLFI LLC, a SEC registered investment advisor. Insurance and education services offered through Serenity Wealth Management.
Are you or someone you know providing or managing care for a loved one today? Did you know there could be more cost-efficient solutions for funding long-term care, even those currently living in a skilled care facility today? Financial strategist and long-term care specialist Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management can show you tax-efficient strategies available to help your family manage care concerns. Whether planning for the future or managing care for a loved one today, solutions exist to provide the financial peace of mind you deserve.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my new book, A CPA's Guide to Tax-Free Strategies for Long-Term Care. You'll learn about strategies to empower you and your family, protect your savings, and make sure your loved ones get the quality of care they deserve.
Request your free copy of Chris's book by visiting SerenityLTC.com. That's SerenityLTC.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
do you mean just stop oil? All your stuff is made out of oil, you idiots. Your clothes, these jackets, they're all made out of oil. What the hell are you doing here, making a nuisance of yourselves? It's a joke. What a joke. What are you doing here? Get out the road. You're wasting everybody's time and petrol. All these guys, their engines are running all the time, wasting more bloody oil, you nutters. What is this made out of? What are your clothes made out of? How did your clothes get here? They got here by oil. What are you doing? This makes no sense at all. Just stop oil. You haven't thought about this. If you want to stop oil, you need to stay at home and go and live in the forest.
Welcome back. Chris, there's no better insult than an insult delivered by a British citizen.
With an upper crust British accent. It just
Yes.
makes it more powerful when you're getting, it's like the professor is going
Yes.
off on you or something, calling you stupid.
It's like we're listening to a Monty Python
Exactly,
episode. I love you
exactly.
nutters, he says. Well, we got a lady standing by. She's not a nutter. She speaks a lot of common sense, and she joins us next.
Oh, Susie Q, baby, I love you. Susie Q.
I'm the boss. How about that?
As she does every Monday afternoon around this time, Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at Red State, at Smoozy Q on Twitter, host of the More to the Point commentary, which we'll talk about in just a secondo. Of course, you can find out so many of the things that Susie edits, writes, prepares, and analyzes at redstate.com. Susie, no insult delivered by one with a British accent. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I think it's kind of in a class on its own, and I think that's why we are always fascinated when we see the members of Parliament having a set too, because it just seems so fancy the way they fight.
Yeah, and Susie, just to follow up on that, Sister Told Ya wrote about that very clip at redstate.com today. Fed up pedestrian confronts Just Stop Oil radicals in the street and must watch takedown. Susie, these people are protesting things that they know not of. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's like, back in the day when the Occupy Wall Street folks were all protesting and walking around with their iPhones and such. It's like, clearly these people have never really done the heavy lifting of actually thinking through what they're purporting to be arguing for.
Susie, I want to get your thoughts on Rosalind Carter. You and I are roughly about the same age. I think I got a couple of years on you. I know you probably were a political nerd junkie like I was, and the Carter administration was really the first administration. I was in 5th grade, the 9th grade, when I really kind of started paying attention to politics. Was it the same for you? And at one time you were a Democrat. Were you a big Jimmy Carter fan back in the day?
I most certainly was, and of course, I was steeped in politics from the time I could walk. So
I hear you, my
very
friend.
much aware of it. When Carter and Ford were facing off in 1976, our third grade class had a little competition about who you were voting for, and I was very much in favor of Jimmy Carter. I had a peanut keychain, was a prized possession. And actually, he and Rosalind and Amy came and visited St. Louis when I was 11.
1980.
And they gave a speech. Yeah, down on the riverfront. My dad was very involved in Young Democrats, and we had VIP access. So I shook all three of their hands.
Yeah, I remember that was a trip that Jimmy Carter took in 1980 during the presidential campaign. He wasn't doing too well in the polls, and they took a trip from the beginning of the Mississippi River in Minnesota all the way down to New Orleans, and one of those stops was in St. Louis, and the Today Show did their show down there. Cool. I remember that.
Yeah. Somewhere in my mom's photo albums, there's a picture of Jimmy Carter's hand and my hand reaching up to shake it, but I don't have access to it.
Did you ever wash that hand?
For you guys.
Did you ever wash that hand
Yes,
again?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Once or twice, yes.
It wasn't like Daisy Jones.
Exactly. Susie, the left and the Democrats, the Democratic Party, of which is pretty much comprised and unfortunately has been largely hijacked completely by the left, always claim to be for the downtrodden and the oppressed and the underdogs and those who are being attacked. Well, Susie, you would think then that they would care about the Jewish people, right? And you know what? A lot of Jewish Americans self-identify as Democratic voters. But here, Susie, we see what happens when the left's push to promote the Palestinian people in a code word for a genocide of the Jews by making famous the horrible chant from the river to the sea, which means the abolishment of the Israeli state. Susie, we see this reflected in a Red State headline today. It says, shocking, 37% of Jewish students report hiding their identity amid rise in anti-Semitism on campus. So, Susie, if there's anyone questioning the real-world effect and whether the Jewish people are feeling targeted, how about the fact that RedState.com is pointing out that nearly 40% of Jewish kids are afraid to let people know what their actual ethnicity is? That should be something, Susie, that the Democrats should be concerned about, but they seem to not care. What say you?
Yeah, it's really a sad commentary. I mean, when you think about it, first of all, no college kid, no person anywhere should be afraid of showing who they are ethnically, religiously, whatever. I mean, that shouldn't be anything that somebody lives in fear of. And the fact that such a high percentage, particularly of college students, are feeling that way is really distressing. But it goes to this sort of Marxist thought framework that, you are either the oppressed or the oppressor. And if you've got, two groups that in theory could be oppressed, one of them has to lose out under that framework. And unfortunately, many on the far left and not so far left have opted to cast the Jews as the oppressors, even though they're the ones who were attacked viciously on October 7th. It's so upside down and twisted. It's just hard to even fathom.
Susie, our good friend Becky Noble, who is a writer for RedState.com now and is from St. Louis, like we are, of course, wrote an article about Oregon reversing their hard drug decriminalization. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, they passed this measure that basically decriminalized all drug usage, including heroin, fentanyl, the hard drugs, that sort of thing. And the premise behind it was that people who were caught with those substances were given like a citation, and basically they didn't have to pay it if they actively sought out treatment. The problem is they issued like 6,000 or so of those citations, and maybe 125 or 130 people sought out treatment. So it's not doing what they thought it was going to do. On top of that, there's been a huge uptick in overdoses and all the rampant crime that goes along with drug use. It's basically a massive failure. So already they're saying, you know what, we would like a mulligan here. Could we maybe repeal that measure or do something, because it's not working out very well for the individuals that voted for it or for the businesses, for anybody. No one's really happy with the outcome of this new process.
Speaking to Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at RedState.com. Susie, it's amazing that last story you just talked about. It seems like the left's ideas just don't seem to work in reality. Susie, if we're going to give kudos to the 81-year-old president, happy birthday, Joe Biden, by the way.
Happy birthday, Joe.
The one thing that maybe is a throwback to when Democrats used to be sensible and sane people of yesteryear was the fact that, like on a lot of foreign policy issues, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, for better or for worse, usually were in lockstep with one another, and that was of the case in standing with Israel. Joe Biden I'm going to give him credit. He's pretending at least to stand with Israel while making a couple of really bad comments along the way to Gaza about, what we should be doing about ceasefires. But he's taking a lot of heat, Susie, isn't he, from the majority of his party, which seem to have forgotten that Israel is a democracy, a liberal democracy, a republic of sorts with a parliamentary system and a president and a prime minister in a hotbed of authoritarian theocracy. I mean, Susie, it's amazing, isn't it, that even Joe Biden can get this right, but the majority of his party is getting it so wrong.
So I wouldn't say it's the majority of his party. I would say the majority of his party is with him and stands with Israel. What you're seeing, though, is the majority of the far left, which is the loudest part of the party, that is standing against this and is in an uproar over it. But I would say the vast majority of Democrats still support Israel. And they may be wanting to see some sort of measure of relief, humanitarian aid, that sort of thing. But to go and find people who are like, yeah, Hamas was right, those are like the rabid leftists. And you're not going to find that amongst most people, even on the left. And I know that may ruffle some feathers, but that's just the reality. I mean, I know far too many Democrats who are very staunch supporters of Israel to believe that. And look at some of the Democrats in Congress that have been speaking, the most vociferous about this. Dan Goldman has been speaking out on it. John Fetterman has been speaking out on it. Chuck Schumer, all of those guys. So
They're all Jewish
the
too.
bottom line is, I mean, they are, but they're not the only ones speaking out on it. Of the Democrats, it's primarily the squad and the far progressive left that are.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't. It's a weird time for the Democratic Party because Joe is obviously facing pressure from all quarters, and unfortunately, the rabid left is kind of a monster of their own making.
Mm-hmm. Susie, happy Thanksgiving to you before we let you go. And thank you for everything you've done for us here for the last 2.5+ years at News Talk STL Nation. Your more to the point commentaries and all the great analysis and insight you bring to the station.
Have you been to the new studios yet?
I have not.
Ah,
I'm
okay.
looking forward to getting a chance to come in and check
They're
them
beautiful.
out, but I have not been to them yet. They look. I saw some of them on the video today. They look very nice.
Today was my first day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, Susie, have a great Thanksgiving with your family and your loved ones, and we'll look forward to speaking with you on the backside next week.
Thank you, Susie.
Thanks. You guys as well.
All right, very good. At Smoozy Q on Twitter.
You know, it surprised me, Tim, when John Fetterman was getting a lot of criticism from the progressive left because he was supporting Israel. And I'm like, look, John Fetterman's a nutcase and dresses any way he wants to on the Senate floor, but he is Jewish. And he's going to, like most Jewish people, are going to stand with Israel no matter how.
Unlike Bernie Sanders, though.
Unless him. But I was like, John Fetterman is Jewish. Of course he's going to be a staunch supporter of Israel.
At least he had enough sense to do that.
Yeah.
He doesn't have much sense to do anything else right, but at least he got that one right.
Exactly.
And you know what, Chris? He's a big enough man in all ways and all where to stand, but he hasn't flinched an inch on that.
He has not. He has not.
It's interesting.
So we'll talk about that, Tim, and other things when we come back, sir.
Absolutely. One final segment for today, 5:45 in the PM. We'll be right back, and then we'll also tell you what Larry Connors USA.
Yeah.
He is, of course, still with us. He'll be picking up the con here at 6:05. All of that straight ahead when Chris and I return. Here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1, News Talk STL.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Keep the umbrellas handy. More rain at times this evening, and even overnight we'll see some showers. It'll start to taper off, but you might have a spotty lingering shower during the morning drive. Otherwise, we're drying out, but it stays cloudy and chilly on Tuesday. A low of 42 degrees and a high of just 46. It'll be breezy and cloudy and dry in the afternoon with a wind around 10 to 20 miles per hour. We'll get more sunshine in here on Wednesday with a high of 49 and mostly sunny skies. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
On the next,
Larry Connors USA.
One House Democrat who was at the DNC during that mob the other day says it was more scary than January 6th.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
You know, every Monday here, and you heard him at 425, Senator Jim Talent gives us his views on world events. And, of course, that segment is sponsored by our good friends over at Royal Banks of Missouri. We're so proud to have Royal Banks as a sponsor of News Talk STL and of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. And so that's why I'm asking you to give them a try. I've been having my business and personal accounts at Royal Banks for probably about 20 years now. Royal Banks has been in business since 1964, and they consistently get some of the highest ratings for bank stability in Illinois and in Missouri. They have 17 locations, a couple of locations in Illinois, in Jerseyville and Granite City, Illinois. Even up northeast Missouri, there's a location in Hannibal and 2 in St. Charles, Missouri. At Royal Banks, Missouri has 200 ATMs across the Midwest, so you can access your money when you need it. Whether you need wealth management, home loans, business, or personal checking, Royal Banks of Missouri has you covered. Visit my friends online at royalbanksmo.com, royalbanksmo.com. Royal Banks, Missouri, the community bank that is in your community.
For over a century, century, Seidenstricker-Nobe Partners has remained a trusted dealer serving both Missouri and Illinois. Our certified technicians are committed to delivering top-notch service, ensuring you're ready for the spring. Right now, take advantage of our special offer: free pickup and delivery on all 1 through 5 Series John Deere compact tractors, gators, and mowers. Don't wait. Schedule your winter service today.
Offer valid through 12/30/2023. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Must be within 30 miles of SMP dealership.
This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com. Follow Chris Arps on Twitter at Chris_Arps.
I would put the president's stamina, president's wisdom, ability to get this done on behalf of the American people against anyone on any day of the week.
Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 5:49 on a rainy Monday. Tim, you know the Washington Post has something they use to gauge lying, and it's called Pinocchios.
Yes.
One Pinocchio is a little white lie, I guess. 4 Pinocchios is a big lie, no question. Your hair is on fire. That quote from Jean Pierre, whatever her name is.
The French lady.
The French lady. Diversity hire is what his name calls her. What would you give that on the Pinocchio scale that she said that President Joe Biden, she'd put his stamina every day against anyone? What Pinocchio scale would you give that?
So on a scale of 1 to 4, Chris, I got to give it a 5. I got to give it a 5.
Off the
right?
chart. How could she say that with a straight face? And we're watching
on.
this man shuffle. He doesn't walk. He's shaking hands with imaginary people. We had another scene last week where he didn't know where to go after the event was over. We've seen the reports now that he doesn't go down the stairs at Air Force One. He goes in the back of the plane that doesn't have as many stairs because they're worried about him slipping and falling. How could she say that with a straight face?
Look, you don't have to be – she doesn't have to sound like a ridiculous over-the-top of her skis Homer, which she does sound like. But you don't have to there's a middle ground between saying, oh, my God, is he a wreck, which we all know, and saying he's going to participate in the next Olympics, which is basically what she's saying there. She could use a little bit less superlatives and still get the point across.
I mean, I was expecting her to say, be here tomorrow in the Rose Garden because President Biden is going to do 10 one-handed push-ups to show you his stamina and how great a shape he is. I mean, that's how ridiculous her statement was. It was comparable to that to me.
I mean, look, you and I can talk about this because of the decades that we're in. We're nowhere near 81 years old. We're also nowhere near 21 years old. I can tell you that as you age, for all you younger listeners, as you age, things do get harder. Everything gets harder. You have to work harder to be better, right? You have to exercise, eat right, drink lots of water, make sure you get your checkups, eat your vitamins, eat your right food. And if you do, even if you do all of that, you still are subjected to the aging process. There's that we talked about. Remember that guy, that scientist we talked about, he's like 40 something and he has the body of like a 25-year-old, but he is going to extraterrestrial lengths to do that, right? Just be honest. Just be like, she could have made a joke. She could have said something like, well, again, the Olympic reference. Joe Biden's not going to be preparing for any Olympic triathlons, but you know what? He's doing just fine for an 81-year-old,
And to show you why the people aren't believing that, we talked about the poll. The NBC poll has the president at 40%. That's the lowest he's ever been in that poll. Another poll, Tim, the Epic MRA, I don't know what that is. They find that President Biden is losing to President Trump by 5 points in Michigan. David Axelrod is doubling down on his comments. He said over the weekend that he thinks that Joe Biden has a 50-50 shot. No better than that, maybe a little worse. Are we seeing the beginnings of the end of the Biden presidency, Tim? What do you think? Axelrod's pretty significant within the Democratic Party.
Chris, this is the third week in a row. David Axelrod, unless the Clintons are behind this, he better be careful he doesn't get suicided.
No, you know who's behind it? Obama. 'Cause that's his boy.
Well, then
so, the talk is that Obama is really running this Biden White House because half of his cabinet, half of the people that work for Biden work in this White House.
You know, Chris, about 2 or 3 months ago when that first ABC News poll came out that had Trump beating Biden, the left wingosphere all freaked out and were like, that's an out. Remember they called it an outlier? It was an ABC poll. They call it an outlier. Chris, they can't call these polls outliers.
No, not anymore.
Because they're all saying the same thing. Now, you and I will both also tell the voters of this state and this nation, wherever you're listening around the planet, we'll also tell them this at the same time. Do not presume that the election is going to be anything but extremely close. Yeah. And we're 1 year out. You can't take anything for granted. But the trend is the voters are souring on Biden and they're approving of Donald Trump.
Now, Tim, we've been speculating here for weeks, probably months, on whether Joe Biden is going to be the nominee for the Democrats in 2024. Here's some things that I'm reading, and I want to get your thoughts on it. What does this say to you? One, some are arguing that Biden or his team, they haven't communicated effectively a reelection plan, which you really haven't heard a reelection plan. It's Bidenomics, but what is your plan to get reelected? You don't hear that from them.
I would agree with that.
And here's something else they're saying. Democrats have expressed concern about the campaign's thin operation in battleground states. Outside of pilot programs for organizing in Arizona and Wisconsin, the campaign has not built on the Democratic National Committee's presence in key states or placed staff in any of the early primary states.
I would agree with that.
What is that? Does that tell you anything? Are they kind of signaling that Joe may not run?
Yeah, the Biden bots, they've pissed off the Iowans. They've pissed off the New Hampshireites. Don't make those people upset in the Granite State. They've upset people around the country. And you're right, Chris, think of the first time in the last 6 months you have seen a Joe Biden campaign event.
Oh, I can't even remember the last time I've seen a
When was the last Joe Biden campaign event? I don't remember one. There may have been a little one somewhere. Yeah. But to those points right
That's
there,
true.
He's not campaigning, is he?
Yeah.
I mean, if he's not
putting an operation together.
If he's gonna run, if he's gonna try to hang in there, this may be one of the worst reelection campaigns we've ever seen in U.S. history.
Yeah, and
because there's nothing to it.
It's getting late, and they don't have the infrastructure there. You know, another poll, Tim, and today, as we said, is Joe Biden's 81st birthday. Another poll doesn't bode well for him. 77% of Americans say there should be a maximum age limit for elected officials. A plurality of those favor a cutoff at 70. So Joe Biden is about 11 years over where most Americans want our politicians to hang it up. It's just bad news after bad news for him. But I'm just afraid that this election is going to be a lot closer than it should be because you have people that have Trump and Republican derangement syndrome, and they'd rather have an old, decrepit Alzheimer's patient as president than to put a Republican in the office. I mean, it used to be we'd look at these elections and you could tell, oh, yeah, this is how it's going to be.
Right.
You can't do that anymore.
You can't because it's unfortunately become a massive personality and popularity contest, and people just can't. Look, folks, look at the damage done to this country the last 3 years and ask yourself, do you want 4 more years of the same?
The first thing that trained me where I learned that the elections have changed and they are not as predictable as they used to be was Barack Obama's reelection. 20 years ago, before Barack Obama's reelection, there's no way in hell he would have been reelected with that record. There's no way. But after he was elected, I was like, oh, my God, the American people will elect anybody now.
Yes. People are looking for a letter. They're looking for a letter instead of a public policy performance. So that's what it is these days, unfortunately.
Exactly. Well, Tim, great show.
Yeah, man, first time.
Great show in the new studio. Yes. Love this. Next up, of course, is Larry Connors, USA, from 6 to 8. Larry's going to talk about President of Israel, Netanyahu, calling out moral depravity on U.S. campuses. He's going to ask, what would the left do if Trump treated Putin as Biden did with Xi? and a very special birthday gift for Biden. You got to hear it. Don't want to miss it. You've been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe.
Is your family prepared for the financial burden of losing a loved one?
Are you aware of the cost of a funeral?
Benjamin Schaefer with Senior Memorial could help you qualify for lifetime permanent final expense insurance coverage with no medical exam required.
Just answer a few health questions, and once accepted, your rates never increase.
Do you have diabetes? High blood pressure?
Have you had a heart attack? A stroke?
No problem.
Benjamin Schaefer with Senior Memorial can help protect your legacy.
Call or text 314-866-8886. That's 314-866-8886.
To learn more about permanent lifetime final expense insurance coverage.
Benjamin Schaefer with Senior Memorial could help you qualify for immediate coverage by answering just a few health questions.
Call or text 314-866-8886 or learn more at memorialplans.com. That's memorialplans.com.
Policies underwritten by Senior Life Insurance Company, not available in all states.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Hey guys, Columbo here, reminding you that if you belong to an organization like a school or a church, or your kids are part of a group or a sports team that needs to raise money, there's no better way to do so than with a TJ's Pizza fundraiser. TJ's Pizza has been helping local organizations raise money for over 30 years to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. A local company helping local people, and there's lots of different ways TJ's can help you raise big money fast. Get started now at tjspizza.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL
at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
This hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. The next couple of days may be difficult travel-wise if you're heading out for family gatherings. National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Molinax says if you live on the East Coast and plan to leave Tuesday for the Thanksgiving holiday, you may be in for a wet commute.
For those in, say, New York and Boston, it stays generally dry throughout the first half of Tuesday, but then it gets wet leading up towards the Tuesday afternoon rush hour, and then it's pretty damp at least through Tuesday night.
To the west, areas of rain and snow will blanket much of the Great Lakes region, with showers also developing in eastern Minnesota and the western upper peninsula of Michigan. CEOs of big tech companies have been subpoenaed to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee to testify about the steps they're taking to keep children safe online.
Chairman Dick Durbin and Republican ranking member Lindsey Graham fired off a subpoena on Monday to the CEOs of Discord, Snap, and X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. In a press release, the senators say members will get a chance to question the CEOs about what they call their failures to protect children online. The hearing is set for December 6th. Von Agnew reporting.
A federal appeals court is mulling whether to restrain the former president and current presidential candidate Donald Trump, who's asking the judges to free him from a gag order in his federal election interference case. Judge Brad Garcia pressed Trump's lawyer to explain why they shouldn't take proactive measures as opposed to waiting for more threats to occur.
Essentially what the district court is finding is we have a past pattern. When the defendant speaks on this subject, threats follow. And now he's making similar statements again. We're months out from the trial.
On Wall Street, the Dow up by 203 points, the Nasdaq rose 159, the S&P advanced 33. More at townhall.com.
If you're trading or thinking about trading in the stock market, listen up. Last year, a staggering number of Americans were forced to take out withdrawals from their savings. Worse than the dot-com bubble, housing meltdown, or pandemic crash. Those could all feel like a blip compared to what some Wall Street analysts expect may be coming as soon as December. Some are calling it the market tsunami, and it could wipe out billions of dollars in the markets. But before any of those things happen, Vantage Point's AI analyzes billions of data points in seconds, so you get highly accurate predicted market conditions in advance. Text the word money to 813-813 now to learn more in a free online class. Text MONEY to 813-813. Text the word money to 813-813. Trading involves financial risk and is not suitable for all investors. Past results do not guarantee future performance. By texting, you agree to the terms available at VantagePointSoftware.com and consent to receive calls and texts using automated technology about offers or info by or on behalf of VantagePoint. Your consent is not a condition to purchase and can be revoked at any time. Message and data rates may apply. Text the word money to 813-813.
There's good news for holiday shoppers and shippers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Keep the umbrellas handy. More rain at times this evening, and even overnight we'll see some showers. It'll start to taper off, but you might have a spotty lingering shower during the morning drive. Otherwise, we're drying out, but it stays cloudy and chilly on Tuesday. A low of 42 degrees and a high of just 46. It'll be breezy and cloudy and dry in the afternoon with a wind around 10 to 20 miles per hour. We'll get more sunshine in here on Wednesday with a high of 49 and mostly sunny skies. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Stand by for Larry Connors USA.
Larry Connors USA.
Next
on News Talk STL.
Hundreds of homeowners and businesses had or will have water main breaks. Wellington Environmental has a warning. You can clean up the water, but if you're not checking areas where the water leaked in the walls where you can't see it, you could end up exposing your family, your employees, your clients to hazardous mold. Wellington Environmental reminds you, if that mold is not detected, properly treated, removed, that is a risk, a liability you do not want. Wellington clients, including hospitals and schools, trust Wellington to make their environments safe. Call 314-644-4930.